Story 1. Not allowing my ex-GF to meet our son after she abandoned us. When I was 21, I met this girl, Linda, in college. We started dating, and after a year she accidentally got pregnant. I felt I was too young to be a father, but decided that, if she wanted to keep the baby, I would have taken care of them. She changed her mind a dozen times, but in the end she decided to keep the child. So I did what I had to do. Our families weren't rich, so I left college, found a job and started preparing for the child. My son, Leo, was born in June. I worked impossible hours, spent whatever was left of my time taking care of Leo, and my mother spent a lot of time at our apartment to help taking care of Leo. Linda's parents did basically nothing. They told me in my face that I was not welcome in their home, and they spent a total of 2 hours with Leo in the months following his birth. When Leo was 7 months old, Linda bailed on us. One day she called my father to come help taking care of Leo. He went to our apartment and she wasn't there. Leo was sleeping in his crib and Linda's belongings were gone together with the money left in the house. I tried contacting her and going to her parents' home, but they weren't there and she never answered the phone. It's been 11 years since then. Now it's just me, Leo and my father. My mother unfortunately passed away last year. Despite all the problems we had, Leo has grown up to be an amazing, cheerful and smart kid. He is my pride and joy, and I will do anything to protect him and make him happy. He doesn't remember his mother. Few weeks ago Linda showed up at my door in the middle of the day. She asked to talk and I reluctantly agreed. To sum it up, what she said, she is sorry for what she did and wants to be part of Leo's life again. I told her no. She begged and then said some unkind thing about me as a person when I refused again. I told her I do not care what she think. Until Leo is old enough to make a choice, she will not see him. After he is old enough, I will tell him the truth and he will decide on his own accord what he wants to do. Since, unfortunately, we live in a small town where rumors spread rapidly, I'm now being judged by some neighbors for my reaction. I don't think I am in the wrong here and my family agree with me, but I guess another opinion would be welcomed since I'm basically going crazy. So, comment 1. NTA: but get a lawyer and establish custody legally. She should also financially support her son. 2. He's 10, he's probably old enough to decide on whether he wants to, one day, meet his mother. Additionally, if you live in a small town, he might hear something at school or she can get in touch directly without you knowing. I think you need to discuss things with him and explain what's going so he's not blindsided. OP comment: I already went in front of a judge 1 year after she left. I have sole custody of Leo, and unless she performs a miracle, she won't get anything by going to court. Either me or my father, he is retired now, bring Leo to school and go pick him up every day. I also talked with some of the teachers about the fact Linda is not allowed to interact with Leo in any way and to call me if she ever show up at school. Comment 2. NTA: but if it's already around your small town, your son is likely to find out and you need to be the one to tell him, not gossiping kids at school. I think you need to think on this hard. She doesn't deserve to see him, but does he deserve to know his mother? You could set very strict boundaries so you are in as much control as possible. So she cannot say things about you that sway him against you. Or don't let her see him and be honest with your son. Your mother turned up, she wants to see you. I am not conformable with this, etc. Explain your reasons and why you think he is too young to deal with this now. Story 2. Telling my sister I don't care that she hates my son's unusual name. My wife and I named our son Lake. The name is unusual to some and not to others in my experience. My wife and her siblings all have names like Blossom, Sunny, Ryder, Atlas, that are often considered unusual, so his name fits there. But among my family the name does stand out because my family likes the classics like Emily, James, Elizabeth, Michael, etc. My sister was very outspoken when our son was born and we announced his name. She asked why I would let my wife away with it, and I told her I was right there with my wife when we chose his name, and I wanted the name as much as my wife did. I told her that should be the last time she brings it up because I would not tolerate her bringing it up again. And she did. This time saying she hates the name and we should be ashamed of ourselves for picking something wacky that will stand out. I cut her off, but she talked over me anyway and told me that I should be thinking of my son's future and my wife and her siblings should all know better than to keep the ridiculous trend going with their kids. She said nobody can really take them seriously and I should think about that for my son. I told her the conversation was over, but she didn't stop, and she told me that I should be listening to her because she's looking out for my son when my wife and I are not. I grew so frustrated. I told her that I did not care that she hates his name. I told her that if we had wanted her opinion we would have sorted, and that I would take the experience of people who live with similar names over someone named Josephine who never knew what it was like to have a unique or uncommon name. She was offended and told me our names were given to us to follow us through life, and my wife and I cannot say the same for our son, or for her and her siblings. I said I did think of his future and him being an old man with the name. I told her I know adults with unusual or unique names and they're proud of them. I said not everyone is, but not everyone isn't, and it's normal for my family now to have unusual names. I again reiterated that I did not care and told her to leave me the F alone. She said I should care and I'm in a hole for dismissing her concern. Comment 1. NTA. What's wrong with your sister? Objecting because you dislike what someone else names their kid is always a D move, and she's doubling down on that. And Lake, isn't that weird? It's just not super traditional. Does she have some deeper issue with your wife? I wanted the name as much as my wife did. Good job standing by it as a joint decision and not pretending your wife made you do it. Doubly so if it really was her idea you went along with. Comment 2. NTA. Firstly, congratulations on your baby's arrival. Best wishes for all that is to come. Your sister seems to have main character syndrome in thinking that her opinion is worth anything at all in your and your wife's name choice for your child. Not only are you not in the wrong in telling her you don't care about her opinion after she kept insisting on shoving it onto you despite your attempts to be politely firm with her, she is TA for insisting after you've made it clear that the baby's name is there to stay. Finally, kudos for standing by your wife, and by extension her family, regarding her own name and that you chose your baby's name together. Your sister was extremely inappropriate and out of line by criticizing your wife's name, and shutting that SH down immediately was the perfect way to go for your young family's sake. Comment 3. Interesting scenario. Your NTA for telling your sibling to keep her opinions to herself regarding your choice of your child's name, especially since your chosen name is legally acceptable. As the parent, you have the authority to make that decision, and it's well within your rights to ask her not to interfere. However, if you've given your child a name that is extremely unconventional and potentially harmful because the word also references a common everyday object/feature found in the world, some might label you as self-absorbed. Story 3. Firing our family therapist after she asked for tips. My ex and I have a 12-year-old boy who's going through some things. We found a therapist and we've been seeing her for a couple of years. It hasn't been life-changing for me in any way. In fact, it became more of a pointless chore like making your bed or folding your underwear. I might have gotten a few things out of it but would not do it again. A few weeks ago, I had told our therapist that it's bizarre to not have to worry about money for the first time in my life. I make good money and don't have many bills. I'm saving like $1,000 a month. Last week the therapist asked me if I could start making a co-payment. I don't have a co-payment because my insurance covers 100% of therapy sessions. I explained that to her. She said that was true, but maybe I could start paying like $20 cash because she's not making a lot with what my insurance pays her. Like a tip. I was at a loss for words. I said, and I suppose this has no relation to my telling you that I had disposable income from a few weeks ago? She said of course not. It was like she was asking for a raise lol. I said I'd think about it. I found nothing about tipping your therapist. I talked to my ex and said I was firing the therapist. She told me not to throw away 2 years of work, and I said this therapist tried taking advantage of me. She offered to pay and I said I'm not stopping you, but I'm not doing the sessions anymore and neither is our son. The trust I had in our therapist is forever broken. I left a voicemail and text message explaining we weren't in need of services anymore. I haven't heard back. Guess what? Our lives didn't fall apart and the therapist replied that I totally misunderstood this whole tip thing. Comment 1. NTA that was trashy and she needs to bill the insurance for more if she wants a raise. It's fine to think your time is worth more, but there are channels for this sort of thing. One slight issue might be unilaterally cancelling the therapist your family has worked with. Your family not falling apart isn't really an indicator of her usefulness. Sounds like you are projecting how you personally feel about therapy onto your other family members. I certainly understand wanting to pursue a different therapist, but maybe wait until a replacement had been secured. I dunno. Comment 2. NTA, this is a red flag. I have previously been, financially, exploited by a therapist, and a good provider would not do this to you. Deciding to raise their rates are one thing, but trying to trick you into a co-payment you didn't owe and asking for tips is going in the wrong direction. Don't discount your feelings of broken trust. It's kind of important on a foundation level. Yes, it does sue to have to look for a new therapist, but staying with one you don't trust is worse. Comment 3. NTA, so, your insurance pays 100% of what the therapist charges, and they wanted a co-pay? Money on top of what they would normally charge? For one, tipping of a therapist is not a thing. Secondly, if the therapist wants more money, they need to either raise their rates, or if it's in a group practice/employee situation, ask for a raise or something. The therapist was unethical in this situation, whether you have disposable income or not, and should be reported to their professional board for a breach of ethics in addition to your insurance company for attempting to double dip. Story 4, wanting to sue my daughter for her car? I, 46F, and my oldest daughter, 24F, had the biggest blowout fight a couple days before my birthday. The details are super personal, but just know it was horrible. Things were said on both sides that can never be taken back. The night of the fight she put in her 2 weeks' notice. She was my mother's home aide. 2 weeks from that day I was having major surgery, which she knew, and would now have no one to take care of my mom. She's bedbound and needs 24/7 care. The day after I told her I was considering taking her phone and her car, both of which I paid for. The car is in her name and we had a contract for repayment, which she has long since broke. She ignored me and went about her day. The next day was my birthday. She came into my house, she doesn't live in my house, wished me happy birthday, and proceeded to toss her phone and house keys at me, and then tells me since the car is in her name she won't give it back, and that if I want it back I'd have to take her to court. My mom insisted we try to come to a resolution, and she ended up screaming at me that there was no way I was getting the car back. Remember, it's my birthday. The rest of the week went on with her refusing to finish out her 2 weeks, even though I wouldn't be home. The only person she screwed over was my bed-bound mother. We haven't spoken since then. It's been just over a month now. She never even tried to find out if I was okay from my surgery. As a household we have agreed that we're done with her and her attitude and behavior. 9 So now I really want to take her to court for the car because she obviously won't pay anything on it anymore and I'm out thousands. Along with other things she owes me and my mom for, which also equals thousands. So would I be an asshole for taking her to court to recoup the money she owes? Comment 1. It sounds like you've been taking advantage of her TBH. Like, sure, sue for the car. It was your money, you'll need it to care for your mother, and she can buy her own car. It's hard to imagine any reconciliation ever happening when you refuse to admit any wrongdoing and continue to disrespect her. Comment 2. YTA. Read most of your comments. It sounds like you were taking major advantage of her, if she didn't even have enough money for her own phone. The car is in her name. I think it would be doubtful you'd win anything on that, and I'd be a little surprised if the contract you had with her overpayments on it would be legal binding. I'm glad your daughter is finally getting away from you. Missing reasons all over this. Comment 3. YTA. If you rely on someone, don't say things to slash about them that can never be taken back. You've illustrated you lack respect for this adult human who was taking care of your bedridden mother. Then, when you poisoned the environment enough she couldn't finish out her 2 weeks' notice, you neglected a disabled human to make like your daughter did something wrong. She told you she wasn't coming in, you chose to not care for your mother or make sure someone was there to do it. That's disgusting. I'm disgusted. Congrats. If that's what you did so you could tell people your daughter hurt no one but an old woman, I cannot imagine what kind of shitty narcissistic behavior she was putting up with from you before this. Missing reasons everywhere. Don't wanna hear it. The least you can do is let go of the car and stop inflicting yourself on your child.